My sister stole my restaurant concept, then fired me for insubordination when I called her out. Mum said I was being dramatic, that my sister was just more ambitious. But I had every text, every drawing, every menu item. I'd been planning this place for 10 years. Now my lawyer was about to serve her during her grand opening, and the look on her face. Priceless. I'd worked in kitchens since I was 16, dreaming of my own place. I even had a name, the Copper Spoon. My sister Brenda was always the golden child, effortlessly charming, but never really doing anything. A year ago, I finally scraped enough money together and told her my whole vision over dinner. She seemed so supportive, even took notes on her tablet. Then 3 months ago, I saw a coming soon sign. The Golden Spoon. Same copper motif, same farm-to-table concept, same menu items I'd perfected. I confronted her. She just laughed. Oh, that? Just a coincidence. Great minds think alike, little brother. Mom said I was being paranoid. Dad just grunted about friendly competition. I quit my job and tried to get my own funding, but every investor saw the Golden Spoon was opening soon and passed. I was desperate. I applied to work for her. She hired me as a line cook, saying it would be good for family bonding. I just nodded, already gathering my evidence, photos of my original drawings, texts about menu ideas, even voicemails, where she praised my concept. Her grand opening was packed. The mayor was there, local food critics. Brenda, beaming, was giving a speech. This dream, she announced, has been a decade in the making. Just then, my lawyer, Mark, walked up to her with a clipboard. He introduced himself, then handed her a thick stack of papers. Her smile vanished. She looked at me, then back at the papers, her face draining of color. The mayor looked confused. The critics started whispering. The lawsuit was airtight. She'd plagiarized everything. Within a month, her investors pulled out. The Golden Spoon closed, and she was left with nothing but debt and a tarnished reputation. Me. I reopened the Copper Spoon in its place, with the original concept, and a new, much better head chef. My boss said, if you're 1 minute late, you're docked an hour's pay. Then he showed up 47 minutes late to his own compliance meeting. I followed his rule exactly. He lost $200 in 2 weeks. My manager rolled out the new attendance policy on a Monday morning. He stood at the front of the conference room, arms crossed, wearing that smirk he always had when he thought he'd won something. Effective immediately, he said. If you clock in 1 minute late, you lose an hour of pay. No exceptions. I don't care if it's traffic, weather, or your kid's school. This is a professional environment. Someone asked if it applied to him too. He laughed. I'm salaried. But sure, if it makes you feel better. That same week, I was 3 minutes late because of a fender bender on the highway. He docked me an hour. $52 gone. The next Monday, he strolled in at 9:47 for a compliance meeting that started at 9. Wow. I was already there. I'd been there since 8:30. I watched him walk past my desk, coffee in hand, still smirking. After the meeting, I went to HR. I had the policy printed out. I had the meeting invite showing the start time. I had the sign-in log showing his clock-in. He was 47 minutes late, I said. According to his own rule, he loses 47 hours of pay. HR said it didn't apply to managers. I pulled out my phone. I'd recorded him in that meeting. No exceptions, his voice said through the speaker. I don't care who you are. They escalated it. Corporate got involved. Turns out, when you put a policy in writing and enforce it on hourly staff, you can't just ignore it for yourself. They docked him. Every minute, 2 weeks of late arrivals, meetings he wandered into, lunches he stretched. By the end of the month, he'd lost $4,200. He tried to argue. They played the recording. He stopped talking. The policy was gone by Friday. My manager avoided eye contact for weeks. I clocked in at 8:59 every single day. He had no rule left to hide behind. The manager at Sports Zone interviewed me like I was applying for prison, not a sales job, until I mentioned one name and watched his entire face drain white. I was 19 and desperate. I'd applied to 40 places in 2 weeks. This guy, Derek, didn't even look up from his phone for the first 3 questions. So you dropped out of college, he said. That's not really the store zone standard. I said I took a gap year to help my dad. He smirked. Daddy issues, noted. Then he leaned back and put his feet on the desk. Look, kid, we need someone who can handle pressure. You seem kind of soft. I stared at those dirty sneakers on the glass. I thought about my dad working 27 years for this company before his stroke. I thought about the 14 months I spent driving him to physical therapy every morning before my shift at the warehouse. Derek was still talking. We had a guy like you last year. Lasted 3 days. Cried in the stockroom. I took out my phone and opened my contacts. I said, before you decide I'm too soft, you should know my dad is Richard Salazar. Derek's feet hit the floor. The smirk evaporated. Wait, Rick Salazar? The regional director, Rick Salazar? I stood up. Yeah, he's actually waiting in the car. Want to tell him about your hiring standards? Derek started sweating. I walked out and didn't look back. My dad taught me to never beg for respect from people who wouldn't recognize it if it interviewed them. My wife cleaned out our joint account to pay for her boyfriend's luxury car, then told me it was my fault for not making enough. She had no idea I'd already been tracking her texts with him for weeks. I made sure her dream car became a permanent reminder of her mistake. We'd been together 10 years. I thought things were good until our joint savings account started looking empty. Not just empty, zeroed out. When I asked my wife, she just said, maybe you should earn more. That stung, but then a luxury car dealership called, confirming her appointment to pick up a brand new SUV, fully paid. I knew I hadn't bought it. I remembered her phone was unlocked on the counter weeks ago. I'd seen a text from a contact named J Gold with a heart emoji. I quietly installed a text tracker. I'd watched her conversations for weeks, every detail of their affair, every plan to drain our accounts. I had hundreds of texts, so when she picked up that SUV, I was waiting. Not for her, but for the dealership manager. I showed him printed texts detailing her plan to pay with funds stolen from our joint account, which legally were half mine. The police were called. She lost the car and faced felony theft charges. The dealership reimbursed me, and she learned that sometimes silence is the loudest evidence. My father-in-law walked into my restaurant kitchen at 9 p.m. on a Saturday night and said, "You need to fire your sous chef and hire my nephew instead. Family takes care of family." I was plating 40 covers. I just stared at him. "We'll talk Monday," I said. He crossed his arms. "No, we talk now. Kyle needs a job and you owe me." I had never taken a dollar from this man. I built this place with a bank loan and 80-hour weeks. My sous chef, Marco, had been with me for 3 years. He was prepping duck while my father-in-law stood there in a polo shirt telling me how to run my kitchen. "Marco stays," I said. "This is not a discussion." My father-in-law's face went red. "I co-signed your lease. You wouldn't have this kitchen without me." That was a lie. He had offered. I had said no. I had the original lease agreement in my office safe. He kept going. Told me I was disrespecting the family, that my wife would hear about this, that I was ungrateful. The line cooks had stopped moving. Everyone was just watching. I put down my tongs, wiped my hands, and walked to my office. I pulled the lease from the safe, came back, and held it 6 inches from his face. "Show me your signature," I said. He grabbed for it. I pulled it back. "You are not on this lease. You are not on my LLC. You own 0% of this business, and you are now banned from this kitchen." His mouth opened, but nothing came out. I turned to my head server who was standing in the doorway. "Nathan is not allowed back here. If he shows up again, call me immediately." My father-in-law left without another word. My wife called an hour later asking what happened. I told her the truth. She said, "Good, he has been lying about that lease for 2 years. Some people think helping means owning you forever." I took a night shift stocking shelves at a storage liquidation store, and my manager gave me one rule: never open the units in the back hallway. 3 weeks in, I found a crowbar on the floor near Unit 47. The lock was already broken. I could see the door was cracked open about 2 inches. I stood there for a full minute, staring at that gap, and then I pulled it wider. Inside was a chair, just a wooden chair facing the wall, and sitting in it was a man in a grey suit. He didn't move, didn't turn around. I said hello. Nothing. I stepped closer and saw his hands were zip-tied to the armrests. That's when my manager appeared behind me. He flipped the light off, pulled the door shut, and locked it with a new padlock he had in his coat. Then he looked at me. "That unit gets opened once a month, tomorrow night. If you'd gone in, he would have turned around." I asked what that meant. My manager said the last guy who opened it early saw his face. Quit 2 hours later. Wouldn't say why, just kept saying he couldn't work here anymore. I didn't ask anything else. I went back to stocking. The next night I came in and Unit 47 was open. The chair was empty. The zip ties were on the floor, still looped, not cut. My manager was sitting in the break room, drinking coffee like it was any other shift. I asked him where the man went. He said the man leaves on his own once a month, walks out the back door, comes back before morning. No one knows where he goes. No one's ever followed him. I stared at those zip ties on the ground. Then I asked the only question that mattered. What happens if someone follows him? My manager set his coffee down and looked at me with the flattest expression I've ever seen. Then we'd need to put another chair in that unit. I turned in my resignation that morning. Some rules exist because someone already paid the price for breaking them. My company went from a smooth-running machine to total chaos, losing millions, all because they wouldn't give me a single extra dollar. They laughed when I gave my notice. My manager said I was easily replaceable. He had no idea what I was taking with me, or that I had documented every single process for 5 years. They thought I was just an admin. They were wrong. When I started as an admin assistant, I noticed things were disorganized. My manager, let's call him Bob, was more interested in golf than workflow. So quietly, I started fixing it. I built a comprehensive digital filing system for client records, designed new onboarding procedures, and even created a project management template that halved our turnaround time. I documented everything with step-by-step guides, flowcharts, and video tutorials. Over 5 years, I created over 300 unique process documents. I stored them on my personal cloud drive, linked from my work computer as an unofficial backup. When my performance review came around, I asked for a raise, just $1 more an hour. Bob scoffed. He said, "You're just an admin, Mark, easily replaceable." My heart sank. I stared at his smirk for a long moment, then just nodded. The next day, I gave my 2 weeks' notice. Bob actually chuckled. "Good luck out there," he said, waving me off. On my last day, I deleted the links to my personal cloud drive from my work computer. I walked out of that office and felt a weight lift. 2 weeks later, my old co-worker Sarah called me. "Mark, it's a disaster," she whispered. "No one can find anything. The new admin lasted 3 days. Bob's losing it." I just listened. A month after that, I got a call from HR. "Mark, we need your help," the HR director pleaded. "Our systems have collapsed. Clients are furious. We've lost 3 major contracts." I told her I could consult for a fee. $500 an hour, minimum 20 hours a week, and full credit for every process I developed. She paused, then agreed. I sent over the contract, knowing they had no other choice. They learned the hard way that an admin can be the entire foundation,